Welcome to the Personalities in the Workplace podcast. We're introducing you to an easy-to-understand conversation about personalities. Navigating the different personalities in your business can be tedious. We believe that once you understand what drives and stresses those you work with, you can better interact and steer others towards productivity and success. Today, we're focusing on the differences between extroverts and introverts. This episode is made available because of the generous sponsorship of Blackburn Consulting. Learn more about Blackburn Consulting at blackburnconsultingnc.com.
Greetings, this is Tamoji. Welcome to the Personalities in the Workplace podcast. And we have Mr. Chuck Taylor here from Sage Garden Care Center. Say hi, Chuck.
Hi, nice to see you again.
You as well. So, Chuck, the last time you were here, we kind of laid the foundation of what the Myers-Briggs personality type indicator, just what it was. And so today we're going to dive a little bit more deeply into this. And we're going to begin with this whole concept of being an introvert versus being an extrovert.
Right. I love this section because this is the way that we first present ourselves to the world, this extroversion, introversion. So you've obviously got some questions. Lead me on.
I do, Chuck. So I think I'm an extrovert, right?
Yep.
And I don't think you'll meet anybody who'll tell you that I'm not an extrovert.
Yes.
But I also have these moments in certain places where I just kind of want to sit and observe and not really engage as much. So talk to me, because when an extrovert hears about a personality type, I'm thinking, you can't put me in a box. I'm every woman. It's all in me. The Whitney version, the Shaka version, all of it. So talk to me a little bit about being an introvert versus an extrovert.
Okay, great. So this is good. One of the first things I want to say, just as a consistent reminder, is conversations about personality do not answer every question in life, right? So sometimes we all need a place of calm because we just got to rest. That's a human condition. We need to sit back and appreciate the sunsets and just love life and watch children run and play in a park, right? That's just good for the soul in and of itself. It's not inherently a personality trait. So when you think extroversion, introversion, here's the key words that I want you to get. It's just that extra and intra. Extra is that external world development. So extroverts live in the external world outside of themselves, interacting with that world, whereas introverts are internal. They live with inside themselves, focusing on the self to really manifest success.
So I think so based on what you just told me, I think that what extroverts, we have a little bit of both. And I know you said not to box any in, but because I know kind of who I am on the inside, and I can clearly define who I am, it makes it a blast to interact in the extra world and give the extra and be the extra and play in the extra.
Yes. And then you have those moments that you just want to sit back and relax, and like you said, and just focus on yourself, pour into yourself for just a moment. So when you think extroverts, think of who are all these people out there that I can get to know and that I can get to meet and I can exercise creativity with, right? And I have fun with, right? So extroverts, they bounce into a room in general, right? So this is kind of the exaggeration of those personality types. They bounce into a room and they're, hi, how are you? Who are you? Blah, blah, blah. I want to get to know you, want to get to meet you. The more confident we are in ourselves, and again, confidence is not a personality trait. So the more confident we are in ourselves, the more extroverted we may appear. But if a person is shy or they're intimidated or they have a certain degree of insecurity, they might be extroverted, but they may not manifest it because they're holding back a part of their personality out of fear of something.
Well, you tapped in on something, because it is a common assumption that extroverted people like people and introverted people don't like people. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so one of the worst things that I hear on a regular basis, people hear the word introverted, and the first thing they think of is shy. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. I know so many people who are introverted that truly love people and they love interacting with people. I got a buddy, he's an eye doctor, and he does a great job doing his job. And when you go meet him at his office, he's so personable, he's engaging, he's fun to be around, But when he's done at the end of the day, he's done at the end of the day. He wants to go home and rest and he wants to relax, you know? And so when we think of this introversion, what we really think of, and even with extroversion, we're talking about energy. Where do you get your energy from? So one person put it like this: introverts are energy producers, extroverts are energy thieves. Okay. Right. So if you're an extrovert, don't take that personally.
Yeah, I'm scratching my head here. I'm thinking, yeah, okay, but I mean, we throw some energy out there too, don't
Well,
we?
so here's what we do is we share this energy vibe, right? So introverts are sitting over there and they're producing energy by themselves, minding their own business, doing their world the way they need to. And then some extrovert pops over, is like, "Hi, you look fun to talk to. What are you doing today? It's great to meet you." And so we begin to pull their energy from them. And as we do, man, we're really stockpiling some for ourselves. And then we'll go share it with this person over here and that person. But we've ultimately stolen it from introverted
Well,
friends.
you're causing this paradigm shift for me by relating this whole concept of being an introvert versus an extrovert to an energy level.
Mm,
So I have to literally shift what I thought I knew
mm,
about introverts and extroverts, because for me it was simply about, without diving into, what Myers-Briggs represents, was simply one person is shy and one person's outgoing. That
no.
was about as deep as it was for me.
So my wife is an introvert, and it's really fun to see her interact with her friends because when she gets around her friends, you couldn't tell that she's an introvert based on our common misunderstandings of what introverts are. She loves talking to them. She's laughing, she's giddy, she's having a blast because she feels comfortable with them. Those are the few people that she really interacts with and joins with. But if I take her to a public setting, we walk into a room where we're supposed to meet, Chuck Taylor walks to the center of the room, says hi to everybody, wants to meet as many people as
Mm-hmm.
possible, and she hits the wall and hangs out over there with one person that she might feel comfortable with for the entire night because she doesn't want to meet any more people than necessary.
Okay. Okay.
And it's not because she's shy, right? She has enough friends. She's got her friends. She's good.
Uh-huh.
I need 500 really close friends.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, write that book. Write that book, Chuck. How to have 500 really close friends. And so when you look at these two things side by side, so the first thing I've gathered from you, Chuck, is that this is an energy level.
Mm-hmm.
One is producing,
Yep.
one is sucking it up,
Yep.
and then redistributing. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, absolutely. So, a great story to reflect on this. There was a job that I used to have when I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was at a manufacturing facility. And my first job with them was an office manager in the evening. And so I met with people, truck drivers, all night long as they came in. I got to talk to people, hear their stories. It was a fun place to work. I absolutely loved it because of all the interaction. After I'd been there for a while, there was a position that opened up that was a data entry position. It was more pay. It was consistent hours through the week. It's what I thought I wanted, but what it meant was I sat in an office by
Mm.
myself with the door closed, plugging information to a computer 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week.
Woo!
I hated that job.
I can't even imagine you in a data entry
No,
position,
it's
Chuck.
horrible. It was horrible. It was the worst job
Ah.
I've ever had in my life. Right? But you take another person, the guy that was there before me had been there for 20 years doing the job and loved it. He thrived in that particular position. So it's really about where are people at. Introverts don't mind being in work where they don't have to interact with a lot of people because they don't need to interact with a lot of people. They don't get energy from that. Extroverts who really get their energy from being around other people are going to thrive in jobs where they have that exposure.
Now, I read somewhere that extroverted people are more action oriented and introverted people are more thought oriented. Can you talk to me a little bit? Is that accurate?
Well, so when you think introversion, you start thinking of internal, right? So they're within themselves. Where do you do most of your thinking? You do thinking within inside of yourself, right? So you're processing information. When I think of extroversion, because I'm on the outside, I'm exploring the world around me and I'm taking action to try to figure things out. So risk taking, exploring, getting out there and engaging, etc. If it's outside the body, I want to know about it as an
Ah,
extrovert. If it's inside the body, I'm going to spend it. So introverts can be considered to be quite reflective and spending more time in thought. So when we think learning styles, here's a
Okay.
great one. When you think learning styles in school, an introvert might spend time, what do I think and feel about this particular idea or concept? They go into the media center, the library, pull up in a room, close the doors, and really take some time to study this idea or concept that they're trying to get to learn. An extrovert wants to get into a group and talk it out with a whole bunch of people and bounce ideas. And which one's better? Which what works for the individual? We want to take a brief moment here to thank our sponsor for helping make this podcast available. Audrey Blackburn has been helping businesses all across the country maximize their profitability year after year. Here is my question for you. How creative can you be when your business is stifled and you're scraping by to earn enough to pay your bills? We call that living in scarcity. When you're in scarcity, you begin saying yes to work that you might otherwise decline because you've become desperate. What do you really want to do with your business? Blackburn Consulting frees you up to be the business you dream of being. It is time to move forward to financial abundance that opens the doors of your creativity. I encourage you to talk with Audrey today. Just one conversation and you will learn how passionate she is about the success of your business. Contact Blackburn Consulting at 336-998-1079 or to blackburnconsultingnc.com. All right, let's jump back into our conversation.
Wow. Okay, because, for some reason, the analogy that came to my head was the introvert wants to read about what happens when you mix the baking soda and the vinegar. The extrovert just wants to pour it in a bowl and see what happens, and it really doesn't matter if I'm going to get a spanking. It's like, that's cool.
Yeah, so an analogy like that, I think it's a fun analogy. There are plenty of introverts that would love to put the baking soda and vinegar together just to watch the reaction, right? The chemical reaction. I want to see what it's like. The extroverts, on the other hand, might want to do it to get a response from all the people watching. What's everyone going to say about
I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at what I've done.
Yeah. Standing ovation, please. I mixed the vinegar and the baking soda. So I hear that it's an energy level, being an introvert versus an extrovert. And then now it's thought based versus action based.
Action based and external. So when we think about thoughts as well, here's the joke that I like to tell people.
Okay.
I'm an extrovert. I hear my thoughts the same time you do. When they come out of my mouth, it's the first time I've heard them.
Right.
Right. And so I go, oh, yeah, no, that does make sense. Or, oh, crap, I probably shouldn't have said that. That is not good.
That was my outer voice.
Yes.
Oops.
So one of the things I teach individuals, if you're an extrovert, give yourself permission to think out loud. Just make sure you're in a place that you can pull it back if you say something stupid.
Like not on this podcast right
Probably
now.
not on this. Exactly right. And introverts are really fascinated because introverts usually won't say anything until they've had time to think it out. So let's put it in the workplace environment. Here's where some of the tension happens. If I'm working with an introvert and I go to ask them a question, sometimes they will look at me and say nothing. And my assumption can be they're ignoring me, they're trying not to respond to me, they're pissing me off, they're not cooperating in the discussion, when the reality is they're processing, reflecting on the information that you gave them, and they're thinking about it. Now, here's what a lot of introverts will tell me. They have learned through the course of their life that if they're quiet long enough, people will just fill the void and speak for them, and they don't have to say anything. Right? And so they just kind of let the world go by and let everybody else do the talking. Meanwhile, they have the answer. Have you ever met the person who's really quiet? They don't say a whole lot, but when they do speak, they say something profound.
Yes.
Yeah. So typically these are our introverted friends who are reflecting on information, who really are processing it well. They're just not quick to speak in order to think. They're just reflecting on it. So if you're a manager or somebody else and somebody's not speaking, maybe it's that they're an introvert and they just need time to process the information. Be quiet and let them process.
Well, I've also dealt with the coworker who says nothing, and when they do say something, Chuck, you wish they had it. So what do you call, what box? Find the box for them.
So that may not be a personality type. That might be a personality disorder.
Okay.
It's something altogether different. So, but with our extroverted friends, when we get them into the workplace, I think the other thing is they can get in trouble because they speak with authority, right? We as extroverts, we speak with authority. When we go to speak something, we're confident, we get the information out there, but we just heard it ourselves, and so it may not really be good. And so I say, don't hold your extroverted friends or your extroverted colleagues to what they say in the moment. If they say something and it sounds like they're committed to it, take a moment to ask, is that really what you want to do? Because if they just heard it, they may have just said it with confidence, but they don't mean it.
So I'm imagining an introverted supervisor
Hmm.
with an extroverted employee. I'm gonna throw that over at you and
Yes.
ask you to unpack that.
So I'm an introverted supervisor. So I'm going to spend a lot of time maybe in my office at my desk, really thinking through concepts and projects that I want to get done. So I go to my extroverted colleague and I say, all right, here's the plan. Now I've already thought it through, right? I've already thought through all the details and what we need to do. So by the time I deliver the project, right, I'm ready to run with it. It is what it needs to be. My extroverted friend, if they even get the whole thing, right, because they're experiencing as they go, yeah, no, that sounds like a great idea. Sometimes they act way too quickly and they don't get all the details. My extroverted friend is going to want to talk out the ideas, right? Why do you want to do this? What is it we're doing? What's the implications of it? Tell me how it's going to work, et cetera, et cetera. Or they may want to see it or put their hands on it or what have you. They can be very exhausting to the introverted person who just says, here's the plan, go do it. And so this can be a bit of a strain on this relationship if we don't understand why and how the other person operates the way they do. Extroverts are going to have a lot of questions often, or they're going to make a lot of assumptions and just run with the answers. So we've got to teach them how to slow down and listen to everything that their introverted counterparts have to say before they act.
So that introverted supervisor
Mm-hmm.
who has an extroverted employee working for them and
Mm-hmm.
they feel that that employee is argumentative
Mm-hmm.
or combative,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just a personality issue. What advice do you have for them in that?
Yeah, it can be a personality issue. Look, there are some people who are just combative, and there are some people who like to argue. And so we
Mm-hmm.
need to make sure that we relegate those into areas that are not personality discussions. But let's assume for a moment this really is a personality discussion. Stop the person, sit them down, put them in a quiet space, close the door, and say, listen, I've got a plan that I need to reveal to you. I want you to listen to the whole plan. Before we talk about it, I'm going to answer all of your questions. I'm going to help you understand this, but I want you to listen to the whole thing first, right?
You mean sit still
Yeah, sit still, right? Take
quietly
notes even. Take notes. Write it down, something.
for an extended period of time?
Because here's the critical part of this is the introvert has a lot of information and they're going to meter it out at the pace that they enjoy. And if we don't teach our colleagues, right? If you're an introvert, you need to teach your colleagues that you haven't gotten all the information out until you've gotten all the information out,
Ah,
right? Slow everybody else down to listen to what it is you have to say. And if people start talking over you, I encourage you, if you're that introverted person, pause, wait, I'm not done. Let me keep explaining what it is that I have to say here. Okay? Don't let people talk over you and you run and they don't get the whole plan. I've met some introverted folks who let people run too quickly before they have the whole plan and they go, oh, they'll be back in just a little bit. They're gonna go hit a brick wall real quick.
wow.
Don't do that.
Don't, no brick walls,
Please
no
no.
brick walls. Okay, especially if you don't have your Flintstone feet to stop the car, right?
Yep.
So, Chuck, it's been said that extroverted people often prefer more frequent interaction,
Mhm.
while introverted people prefer more substantial interaction.
Right.
Unpack that for us.
So I like to think of it as redwood trees. I don't know if you've heard of these redwood trees, but there's two different types of redwood trees out in California. So one is the sequoia redwood, and the other is the coastal redwood. Now both of them are virtually immovable in the ground, but for two very different reasons.
Hmm.
The sequoia redwood has a root system that grows into the ground straight down about a third the length of the tree that's above the ground.
Wow.
So if you got a 60-foot tree above the ground, then the root system goes down at the ground about 20 feet. That tree's not going anywhere. Coastal redwoods, on the other hand, they have an interlocking root system. So instead of having roots that go down, they actually go out and they grow into each other. You can't pull up one coastal redwood without pulling up all the coastal redwoods. Right, which is kind of fascinating. So when we look at this extroverted component, what I say is that their depth oftentimes can be quite shallow, but it's very interlocked with other people. They're great at networking. They're great at getting to know other people. But don't, if you're an introvert and you're friends with an extrovert, one of the challenges may be is you think the relationship is deeper than it actually is.
This is the podcast for employee training, not marriage counseling, Chuck.
So if you see these interactions within the workplace and that kind of conversation, you're going, okay, this person's really friendly, he's great. But he's got, like I said, I got 500 of my closest friends. I have all of these people that I get to know, I got to talk to, I got to connect with. But those relationships sometimes don't run real deep because I have so many people that I talk to. I'm your resource guy. I'm your networking guy. I'm the person that can get you connections. If you want a deep and meaningful relationship, I have some introverted friends I'd talk to you about. Doesn't mean they don't care about deep and meaningful relationships. It just means that an introvert knows deep and meaningful very well.
Wow. So I'm thinking about, of course, my personality type, and I'm an extrovert. And a lot of this is making sense, and I see it in my life. So thank you for the enlightenment here.
Sure.
So to recap, being an introvert versus an extrovert is about an energy level. That's where it starts.
That's the key.
Okay. And so this is not about liking or disliking people.
Right.
It's about how we process information.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, not so much about processing information so much as how we interact with people and how we interact with those relationships. Because with the information part's going to come in the other personality type preferences.
Am I jumping
ahead? You're jumping ahead.
So is this a good segue to talk about, what's coming up?
Yeah, I think our next one's going to be our conversation about the differences between intuition and sensing, which really is about taking information in from the world, understanding and synthesizing that information in order to try to figure out what to do with it. So, yeah.
Okay, well, this has been very informative. The energy level, that will stick with me for a long time, Chuck. So I look forward to unpacking the next set in these Myers-Briggs personality types. And let's give Chuck a hand and thank him for being here.
Yay, it's great. Yay. Thank you for listening to episode 2 of the Personalities in the Workplace podcast, sponsored by Blackburn Consulting. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to Blackburn Consulting, links to the Personality in the Workplace personality cards that we mentioned, more information on Tamoji Jackson and me, Chuck Taylor, of Sage Garden Care Center, a link to take your own personality assessment online, and much more. Each episode, we're bringing you practical, tangible, and engaging conversations that will help you gain perspective on the people you work with. Join us for the next episode where we will discuss the differences between sensors and intuitives in the workplace. Is there something you want to learn about regarding personalities? Send us an email at chuck@personalitiesintheworkplace.com. Thanks. We'll see you on the next podcast.